feeling of what it was like to grow up on the farm, that it was hard work and no dilly-dallying?
It'd be easy, dumb, because it sure wasn't easy.
You go ahead. We're ready. Is that right, Dad?
Well, I was born out in Walker County, Georgia, just south of Chickamauga out here. And my daddy was at that time what they call lease to land, other word used. You give so much of your crop, and they furnish the stock, furnish the land, and the bigger family it was, the more and better property you could rent, because the old landowner liked to have a lot of kids. And of course I had two brothers older than myself, and had a sister younger than myself there. And from time I can remember, I did chores around the house, like go to the garden and get vegetables, or clean out the cow stall, or carry water. We had to carry water about 100 yards from the spring to the house. And of course we always had stock to feed the pigs, and have a calf. And the stock that my daddy used, we had to feed them with hay, had already for when they come in for the farm. But in that time, cotton was the main money crop. And cotton is not easy grown. You have to thin it, you plant it pretty thick, and you wait till the ground gets warmer before you plant it, and it all comes up, and you got to thin it out, block it out with a hole, and you leave your stalks about so far apart. And that was back-breaking work to do that alone. Then in your garden, I don't know very well that I was, my brother's older than I was, could go to the farm, but my mother was an expert gardener. And I was her main hand at that age, the right age. It wasn't none of the rest of some of them too old, some of them too young. But I was just right to get in that garden to help her do everything. And wheelbarrow manure in there and stick beans, and then gathered the vegetable, of course, when they was over with. But the main farm, you raise your cotton to feed for the money crop, and you raise corn. About half your farming done and raised to feed your animals that you had, because you had to feed them and you couldn't buy the feed. So your money crop was your cotton, and your corn crop was to feed your stock, but your garden was your main source of food. And about all your manure you could rake and scrape went in that garden, and they was always real rich. And then vegetable was good. There's no question about what you eat. It was real good.
That's fine. I'm interrupting. Don't think it's about how people took pride in their work, where today people maybe kind of just walk through their paces. They're not as conscientious as when you were a youngster.
Well, any kind of farm work you done, if you made a success of it, had to be almost perfect, because getting your grass would take care of your farm work. But anything you did, whether it was cutting stove wood and stacking it, you stacked it the best you could. And I remember school teachers, instead of telling us kids to get an education, you won't have to work, they told us to be sure that anything be done our very best, regardless of what it was. If you come out to be a ditch digger, dig a better ditch than anyone else dug. And become a doctor, but you still had to work. Don't get it in your head that become a lawyer, doctor, anything else, you could quit work. It's still hard work if you made a success out of it, and that we grew up believing that. I'm glad we did.
Fine. Okay, the next one. If you can, and if you need, tell me now, if you need time to.
Okay.
Well, the first car that I remember seeing, I don't know just how old I was, but I was young. Before I was 6 years old, I'm sure. Maybe about the time I was 6. My grandpa Parrish had all his children and grandchildren to come to his house for dinner. And I had an uncle that was a conductor on the Southern Railroad train. He was late getting there. Everybody else there but him. And directly we seen a cloud of dust coming up this Chattanooga Valley Road, and up here at High Point, and dust, of course, it flew right up behind that. We didn't know what it was, us kids didn't, but it turned in my grandpa Parrish out, and it turned out to be one of these old-time first model of Ford that they were made. And he brought along with him the first phonograph, old Edison cylinder phonograph that played the records. So we got a treat to the first phonograph and the first automobile the same day. Now, the first time I drove a car, I was grown before I ever drove a car. And that was right up here on Lookout Mountain, an old T-model Ford. And coming to town with a fella, and he insisted I drive it. That's when you had to use your foot to let the clutch in and out, you know. And he stayed with me, got on up in town, he took a load of potatoes and got them sold and started back. Well, I drove in back and got up here at the foot of Mountain Road going up, and it rained while we was going. It's the slickest road ever you seen on clay. And I had to turn over the steering wheel to the old driver then, and that was my first time ever I drove a car. It was an old Ford truck.
Okay, that's real good. Used to do for fun when they had an opportunity to play softball, go swimming, fishing, playing cards, whatever kinds of things people did when you were coming up to enjoy themselves.
Well, around where we was at, it wasn't many streams of water, even to go swimming in. And but my uncle lived over there on Chickamauga Creek, and us boys would gather there often as we could in summertime. And my uncle, first time I remember ever even trying to swim, he picked me up and threw me out in the middle of that creek and said, "Swim or drown, boy." So that was about all the kids who learned how to swim that I know at that time. For school recreation concerned, well, we played baseball, what we call two-eyed catch. You know, you line up and you play and you overthrow the ball over the house and get it and run around and try to hit somebody with that ball. It wasn't very much, as I know of. If baseball come along when I was 12, 15 years old, then we had old country baseball. We had to make our own playing field and buy our own balls. And none of us had a uniform, you know. You duck it, have a hat, and a lot of times we used homemade bats too. But that was about the only recreation that we had. Just for years and years, they didn't even have a motion picture up there at the old mine. I was about grown before everybody seen a new picture up there. Come to Chattanooga and see a 10-cent movie.
That's fine. That's real fine.
Well,
just a moment. Okay.
when people passed away in our community, it was a grievous thing for everybody in the community because everyone knowed each other. They knew what kind of a person you was, what kind of life you lived. And everyone was hurt regardless of your character. Everybody felt for their family. And about everyone took a part, and most of the time the people dug the grave, and sometimes even made the coffin to put the body in. But there would always be plenty of people set up at the home, which if, the body was usually left in the home, and when they never hardly was took even to the church, and you have a graveyard service. But people just respected, and they kind of felt for the widow and the children if they had. They'd always help her out in any way they could. If they was a farmer, while they, help her tend her garden and see she had something to eat. So yes, I think people respected the dead and their loved ones far more then than they do now because it was closer.
Perfect. That's real.